Welcome to another episode of That's My Dad. I've got Brick Haley here in the studio. Welcome, Brick.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Appreciate you coming in a busy schedule, man. It's a busy time for you, and you got thousands of things to do, and you made time for an old buddy, and I really appreciate it.
Well, that's what we do. We're family. We're more than buddies.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Brick is probably most well known as a college football coach, and my only friend who has his own Wikipedia page. Man, I'm impressed. I'm gonna get you to sign this thing. Before you leave. But been a Division I coach for a number of years. Troy State, Houston, Clemson, Baylor, Georgia Tech, Mississippi State, the Chicago Bears, LSU, Texas, Missouri, and Minnesota. Man, but more importantly than that, you've been married to Tina for 27 years. 7 years. There you go. 3 boys. You're the dad to AJ, Jeremy, and Adrian.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's where your real heart is. But to me, Brick, you're still just that kid that I ran around with in the 7th and 8th grade.
Well, you know what? I try to be that way. I mean, that's just who we were, and I mean, there's no reason to change. It was good enough then. It should be good enough now.
Yeah. Do you remember 9th grade? It was the Hilton and Haley linebackers.
Oh, no question.
Man, that was awesome.
2 midgets.
Yeah, two little guys.
Yeah.
But the problem is nobody told us that we were too short to be playing.
That's exactly right. We just wanted to play. We enjoyed the game.
Yeah, we had it going on, and then in high school, I got outgrown. In fact, we got this picture here we were looking at and laughing about from our high school days. But I had to move to nose guard, and you moved to linebacker, and so I took all your blocks. Made you an All-American, man. Yeah. You got the big college scholarship because of me taking all them blocks off of you.
Well, that is a true statement there now. We've talked about that a lot. A lot of the guys that I still keep in contact with, just like you, but like Richard Dobbs and guys like that, we have the biggest fun about stuff like that, about our old days and how we played and how Coach Gross ran us to death and just beat us down. But when we got out of there, life was easy.
Yeah,
because we had the roughest part of our life already.
That's right.
From the 9th grade to the 12th.
That's the truth, man. That's why half of us can't walk anymore, too. You know, the concussion protocol back then was different, too. You remember?
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah, it was like they'd hold up 4 fingers, and if you said 6 or 2, you were close enough.
That's it.
So you got put back in the game with a little smelling sauce.
Yeah, it was some tough times back then. Now I tell you what, now Coach believed in you go until you can't go, and so that's just what we did, and we didn't know any difference. And I think that's why you've been so successful in your life and the things that you've done, because you've had that willpower that was instilled in us when we played ball. Yeah.
So that brings me to the first story I want to tell you, and I really seriously doubt that you remember this, Brick. I've got a couple of – I got to tell a funny one first, and then we'll move into something a little more serious. But,
okay.
I think we were sophomores, and Coach was trying to give us some playing time. I think you were playing more than I was, because back in those days, freshmen and sophomore didn't get in the game.
No.
So he had us swapping back and forth. Do you remember this? And you lost your mouthpiece.
Yes. I know what you're fixing to say.
So we were the way it worked is I'd come in and we'd high five, and you'd go to the sideline for 2 plays, and then I go back and forth, and you're coming onto the field, and I'm about to high five you. The ref grabbed you by the elbow and said, "Son, you can't go in the game." You looked at me like, "What?" And I'm thinking, "What? Well, Brick's got to go in the game." He said, "You don't have a mouthpiece." And so for those that don't know, a mouthpiece is this piece of rubber stuff that they mold and makes you fit your teeth.
Old plastic.
And you just looked at me and instinctively reached out your hand.
Give me your
I don't think we even said anything yet, and no. I wasn't about to tell you no.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
And so I handed you my mouthpiece. It had all my slobber on it. You stuck it in your mouth. You ran 2 plays, and I went to the sideline, and my main priority was to find the manager, either Round Man or Onion Eyes. None of our managers had a real name. And so I'm looking for Round Man. You got to find Brick's mouthpiece because he's got mine. And I got to go back in. I don't know where it is. We looked. I said, man, don't you guys bring an extra mouthpiece? You had an extra helmet. You had 15,000 footballs. Don't you have an extra mouth? No, we ain't got no extra mouthpiece. So when I went back in the game, you just handed it back to me. I stuck it back in my mouth, and we played a whole half, sharing the same mouthpiece.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
As soon as you started the story, it kept popped right in my head.
That was too much fun. Actually, Brick, I've got 3 books that are going to be coming out. I wrote that story in one of the books because,
Oh Lord,
because it's a funny story, but it's also a story about when the thing that sports can do for you.
yeah.
Because I didn't think anything about Brick Cayley's slobber. I mean, he slobbered and everybody else slobbered.
Teaches you to trust.
Teaches you to trust people.
I
They're
agree.
in the heat of battle. So, but the more serious story, you probably don't remember this one, but our sophomore year, at the end of the year, one of our very close friends and classmates was killed in a car accident, Philip Adams.
Yes.
And so we were all torn to pieces. But Philip and I were particularly close. We were hunting buddies and played 2 sports together and went to church together and so forth. So back in those days, they didn't bring in a team of counselors. We had what you call deal with it.
Yep.
We dealt with it. It was tough.
Yep.
And in fact, Philip's mom called me the night of the accident, and I went to his house, and I was in school the next morning at 8 o'clock. And we just dealt with stuff. But apparently I had not dealt with it quite enough. And so we go through spring training and summer practice. We get into the first game of the season. It was a really big hype game, a team across town rivalry, Glencoe. And we're in the locker room getting ready to go onto the field. And you and I were both starting at that time finally. And I lost it. I had not dealt with it, and I just broke down and squalled. Do you remember that at all?
I do not.
I didn't think you
that.
did. So here's what happened, and I've never forgotten this, Brick. I'm in the corner of the locker room, ready to run. Everybody's ready to run out on the field, and they're hooping and hollering, and I'm squalling. And you came over and stood by me, put your arm around me, and just stayed there with me. I don't think you said too much, but you just stayed there right beside me and comforted me, because I was dealing with the fact that I was about to run onto the field for the first time without Philip. And these are the words you said, and I've never forgotten them. You said, "Scott, we got to do this. We got to do this." And that gave me courage to get up and run out of the locker room. In fact, if you look at that film, it's on YouTube now. You can see that everybody was out on the field. And I come stumbling out. I couldn't even see where I was going. I ran into one of the cheerleaders coming out of the tunnel. But I've never forgotten, because over the last 40 years, there's been time after time where I've faced adversity or faced something I didn't want to do. And the little voice, sometimes there's Brick Cayley's little voice that I could hear saying, "Scott, you got to do this." It gave me courage to go. And I think probably that's probably the motto of your life, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's just I've grown up where I grew up, and being in the area and the situation we were in, it was every day you just keep going. You don't worry about tomorrow. You just go today, and then whatever happens, happens. But that's what you do.
Yeah, you got to do it. So,
yeah.
So you've got quite an inspirational story. I want to start digging into that. So go back to your childhood. We all know how you got your name Brick. You ran into a brick wall, knocked a chip out of the brick wall when you were a little guy.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell that story again, because I know everybody asks you
all the time.
Yeah, but let's go back to your childhood and talk about that for a minute.
Well, I grew up in a house with 10 kids. It was 7 boys and 3 girls, and so it was tough. And I was the youngest. So I guess I had to be tough because I was picked on all the time. I mean, anything went wrong, they'd blame it on me, and then that was part of the growing experience for me. But I think, growing up in that house, the one thing that I can always remember, because we didn't have much when we grew up in the housing projects there in 11th Street, but I never knew that we were poor. Mm-hmm. I had no clue, because I always had clothes, I always had food. And I think it was just the fact that we had so much love in our house that nothing else really penetrated us. And it was crazy, because I didn't realize, I guess I was blind to the fact of life, because it just didn't bother me that I didn't have name brand tennis shoes. or I didn't have name brand shirts. I had shirts. I had shoes. And, you know, my brothers were athletes, so coming after them, it was always like my oldest brother was the best athlete in our family. And one of the things that probably drove me more than anything was like his generation of friends would always like challenge me to be better than him. And they never really would call me by my name. They would always call me Little Doug. And that just irritated me. And I was like, you know, I got my own name. And, you know, I'd like for you, you know. So I think that was part of the struggle for me that really instilled in me that the attitude that you know, you just got to do it.
Just got to do it.
Yeah, you just got to show people that you can get it done, that it's you and not somebody else. So I lived in my brother's shadow for a long time. And you don't remember this, but we were playing Gadsden High one night at Murphy Stadium, and I was having a terrible, terrible first half. And the reason I was having a terrible first half is because I had broke up with my girlfriend at the time, and my oldest brother, came down to the sideline and grabbed me up from the fence. He brought me over to the fence, and he grabbed me up. And he said, I don't know who you think you are or what happened to you today, but whatever happened to you today does not matter, because right now you're playing this game. And I wound up coming back and playing a pretty good second half. But that was just the way he was. He always felt like, you know, you have to do it. If it's going to be done, you're going to do it. So I think he instilled a lot of that in me.
So what was it like growing up the baby of, what'd you say, 9 of you?
10 of us. It was tough. You know, the girls had a room, the boys had a room. See, I think 7 guys are sleeping in one room.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest thing for us was when guys got older, like a couple of my brothers, they were older and they went to the military and things like that. So the room kind of dispersed a little bit, so you had a little bit more room to sleep. So kind of like, it's just a funny story, but when I met my wife, she was like, how in the world do you not sleep at night and get up so early in the morning? I said, when you grow up in a house with 7 brothers, if you go to sleep early, you get slept on. So I would wait for everybody else to go to sleep so I could go to sleep.
So you didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth?
No, we didn't. My mom was, I can remember my mom worked at Edward Manufacturing and made very little money at all, just enough to keep everything afloat and do things. My dad was in and out of our life for a while, but he was mostly there, you know, for the latter part of my life. And one of the big things is my dad never wanted me to play football.
Really?
Never. He thought it was the most ridiculous thing ever.
Really?
Yeah, for men to go out there and knock the crap out of each other and all this stuff. So he didn't really like it. He wanted me to play baseball.
Ah.
So because my oldest brother was a really, really good baseball player. So I went out and tried baseball a couple times, and you know, I was decent as a fielder and all that stuff, but I could not hit a curveball. I mean, there's just not many curveballs thrown to you in the projects. I mean, there's nobody out there throwing curveballs at you.
But you could hit.
Yeah, I could hit it. If I got a fastball, I could hit it. But now football was more to my liking. And I think a lot of that was, and a lot of people talk about, oh, man, you used to really hit people and all this stuff. I think it was part of the frustration that I had in me as a young man, trying to prove myself that I was good enough to play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So your dad was kind of there and toward the end of your
he was there early in my life, because he was like, you know, being my dad at one time in my life, I felt like we were like the best of friends. Yeah. You know, and then he kind of faded away for a little bit and came back, but my dad was a different dude. I mean, he believed in you making your own way. He didn't give you anything. I tell people all the time, like, my dad would be sitting there and he'd be doing something, and you could ask him, hey, Pops, you want me to help you with that? And his comment would be, are you going to be here tomorrow at the same time? And I'd say, I don't know. He says, well, don't start anything you can't finish. Wow. So that's the kind of guy he was. He was just always just brash a little bit and to the point. Yeah. And so, you know, but that was my dad in a nutshell.
Gotcha. So you deal with a lot of student athletes. And I know that you teach them a lot of X's and O's, but you don't get a whole lot of chance to talk to them about being a father and a dad. So I want to give you a chance to do that, because hopefully some of your guys are going to watch this.
Well, I hope they do, but I'll tell you this. I normally start with my guys talking to them about when they come in the room as freshmen or even sophomores or juniors, and all the guys, and I talk to them. I said, let me tell you something. If all I teach you is tackling and blocking and how to be a good football player, I've failed you as a man. Mm-hmm. I said, there's going to be life talks in here. There are going to be situations where you're going to not quite understand where I'm coming from at this moment, but later in life you will. And I said, but here's the thing, and it's not like I'm here to break you, like punishment, any of those things. I'm here to help make you. If there's any way I can help make you be a better person, then I'm going to do that. We spend a lot of time talking about those things. I try to do it in the off season, but I also do it during the season, because I think it's so important, especially in college athletics nowadays. When we played, what did the coaches want to know? They want to know how much you weigh. Did you work out today? Did you get your run in? Did you complete your task? Now, I think you got to reach out to these young men and talk to them about their family. How's your mom? How's your dad? Once you've been out and you've recruited these guys and you've been in their homes, then you get a sense of who they are. Then you have to take that and then use it to help them become better guys.
Let's talk about those boys that are so precious to you. Tell me about your boys.
They are my boys are my life. I love them to death. Adrian came by us by a different route. I've been married to my wife for a year, and Adrian came along. He was 5 years old, and I told my wife we were taking him in, and she said, okay. I know that was a tough pill for her to swallow, because we hadn't had our own kids. Mm-hmm. But he's a great kid. He never got in any trouble. Just an unbelievable young man. He played a little football, did the things that he thought I wanted him to do, and that's what I told him. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Don't do it because you think I want you to do it. Do it because you love the game. Because if you don't love the game, you're not going to stick with it. Mm-hmm. And so we had a great deal. He went off into college and then came with us when we were at Mississippi State. And so Adrian's done a great job. I couldn't be any prouder of him, but he's an athletic trainer. Wow. And he actually worked with me for 2 years at Missouri. So I had everybody there together. And so he's special. He's special. He's Adrian. A special young man. He does a lot of good things for other people, and I think that's the biggest thing. I tell them all the time, people don't remember what you say. People don't remember what you do. People remember how you treat them. Mm-hmm. So treat everybody right. And I think he's trying to do that.
Yeah, he watched his daddy. Yeah.
Now, my middle son, AJ, is the gem of the group. AJ is my autistic kid. And as you can see, his name is AJ, which was Andre Jr., my name. And, you go through life thinking you have a son, and you go, oh, man, he's going to grow up and be a big football player. He's going to get scholarship offers here. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. Well, when AJ was about 6, he got diagnosed with autism, and they put him on the spectrum. Now, he's very functional and does a great job, but that is a blow to an athlete or ex-athlete's ego. There's no question about that. And so I had to learn to deal with that. Talking about tough time in your life, your firstborn child, he's not going to be anything like you. But I'm hopeful I can hold this together. But he is what the world should be about. Loving and caring. No matter what my day's like, regardless, if we win, lose, whatever, when he hears the garage door come up, he's going to come and give me a hug when I walk in the door. And for me, That's what's important. That's really what's important.
It's not wins and losses at that point, is it?
Nah, it doesn't even matter. He's taught me more about being a parent since he's been diagnosed than I ever knew. We talk about unconditional love. That's unconditional love. You know, he's going to check on me every day. He's going to make sure I'm okay. And so he's a special cat to me, no question.
Awesome.
And,
I was able to spend a little time with AJ, and I feel the same way. Let's not forget Jeremy.
Oh, my goodness. Now, that's the pistol of the group. He is everything that I'm not. That rascal, he will fight me on everything. Tell him he want to do this, he don't want to do that. He want to do this, he don't want to. Anything that I suggest, he probably don't want to do it.
we've all kind of know what that's like. That's called personality, isn't it?
Yeah, so I try not to suggest things to him because he's going to knock. So I let his mom suggest them.
There you go.
And then now but no, Jeremy he's an awesome young man, graduated early from high school, and he's still trying to figure himself out and what he wants to do, but super kid. Jeremy's a little different. He doesn't have the same work ethic that I and AJ and Adrian have, but that's because he's the baby, and we probably spoiled him a little bit too much.
Yeah, but he'll get there.
He's working at it. He's been really, really good. I'm super proud of him. I can't tell you how proud I am of him and how far he's come as a young man. So I couldn't say anything but great things about where he is and what he's done.
So you've devoted a lot of time and energy and effort into the Brick Road to Success to raise awareness for autism and funds. Tell us some about that.
Well, that was something that was was my wife's idea, because if you remember back when I was in Chicago, I came home and we had our first Brick Haley youth football camp.
Right.
And my wife said to me, okay, you're going to continue to have football camps here every year, and you have a son that has autism, and charity starts at home, and then it goes abroad. So we actually changed our foundation after that, after listening to her logic. And so that was something that we did, and AJ was really on board, and he did a good job of embracing it. So that it's been there ever since, but it was her idea to do these things. But yes, I'm very adamant about what we do with autism, because I think it brings awareness to things in this world, and people don't realize it. I think we push it on the back burner. Oh no, he's fine. He'll be this or she'll be fine. No, go get your kid checked out, so you'll know what's going on, so you'll know how to treat it, so you know how to handle it in the household. To me, it's a must. And as much awareness as we can bring, I still think we need more, because there are so many kids out there that have not been diagnosed, and so they're going through life without a chance to have a life.
And so your whole foundation is really geared at those kids, so
No question.
they can have a life.
Yes, I want them to be able to live as comfortably as any other kid in the world. And they can understand that they're different, but they're the same.
Man, this has been great. You're a super busy guy, and it means a lot to me that you hadn't forgot your old ninth grade linebacking buddy.
Hey man, you're never too busy for friends.
You even got your own Wikipedia, and you still remember your friends.
Yeah, right.
Still remember your friends, and that speaks highly. But more importantly than that, I've gotten to see. I knew the Brick Haley, the real Brick Haley, and I think the world's gotten to see a little bit of what your heart is really like. It's not all X's and O's.
No, not at all.
And you've earned what we're about to give you. We got you a little gift. Thanks to Tina.
Oh, geez.
We just like to share this with you because you've earned it.
I hear you.
I want to say thank you for always loving me. daddy. I think your best quality is that you're able to experiment with anything, no matter what it is.
The thing I love most about my dad is his ability to instill self and family pride within us, and also how he shows it.
What I love most about Brick being the father of my children is his ability to always be the proudest dad ever, no matter what our boys have done.
How does that make you feel, Brick?
It makes you feel loved. Makes you feel appreciated. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. It's been my pleasure, man. You know I love you, and like I said, we're family. And in the back of my mind for 40 years now, I've heard you say, we got to do this.
That's
we
it.
got to do this. And so you mean the world to me. Thank you so much again for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know you've inspired somebody. That'll conclude this episode of That's My Dad, where we're striving to help fathers become great dads and to break the cycles of generational fatherlessness. See you next week.